I'd like to thank the really wonderful people of Ballymena for the show of force they've shown recently. The reason I'm so grateful is because they have calmed fears that I've had about the first part of remigration, which I think will be population separation. I think they have shown that this can be accomplished quickly, cheaply, efficiently, and crucially, bloodlessly, with no injury or death at all. They accomplished a substantial amount of it. They moved out quite a lot of people, but without any injury, with nothing that really would count as even noise on the curve of historical atrocity. I am very grateful to them for that. And just to what I think I want to go through the qualities that they showed, and I'll do that in more detail. But I think what they showed was firstly economical use of force, so economy of effort. Secondly, I think related to that, I think they were very efficient at getting people to move out and to move on. I think they were very well coordinated, well directed. Maybe that was unionist politicians or unionist activists of old. The police aren't quite certain about that. They were united, very united, so Protestant and Catholics uniting, determined they weren't going to be put down by insults from the authorities, basically declarations of hostility from their authorities. And also they're very smart about the way they use the PR lingo to when they're getting interviewed by the enemy press and enemy politicians. So I like that. Now, as you may know from previous videos I've done, I think that remigration is going to happen. I think it will happen when the economy breaks down. When the economy breaks down, I think the welfare state will break down. When that breaks down, I think the state itself will break down. And then I think we'll have to wake up fast, because we'll suddenly find we need law in order to keep us safe. What we will find, if the state breaks down, we will separate up, because we will fear those foreigners. They're not simply pests that the police have to deal with. They become real threats to us, particularly their crime rates. And I think their crime rates will go off the leash if the state system, if the state authority breaks down. I think we will separate out hard and fast along ethnic lines. Now, I've always worried that initial separation, which I think is essential and the main part of remigration, the ethnic separation combined with freedom of association, freedom of non-association. I think once we've achieved that, basically we pretty much won. And I think, what has worried me is that population transfer, the ethnic separation, the population transfer involved could be very bloody. So if you look at India, population transfer to them meant Pakistan sending a trainload of corpses into India, and then India sending a trainload of corpses back into Pakistan in revenge. Or you look at the Lebanese civil war or the Yugoslav civil wars, that really very high potential for violence. But what you have is really intelligent people in Ballymena, I think well led, efficiently coordinated, accomplishing a substantial amount of that separation. Not exactly remigration, because, well, in fact, it's a fair degree of remigration, because some of those people have actually said they're going to leave the country. Some of those are foreigners. So, and it has been accomplished without killing, without bloodshed. So I like that. That suggests to me that we can remigrate without civil war. That thing that David Betts has been going on about, saying that is inevitable, I don't think it is inevitable. I think we can avoid it, particularly if we think it through and if we have the right sort of social community leadership. All right. Now, I think another point is that it was the pretext for the protests and the kind of the disorder was that Ballymena people didn't like the presence of Roman gypsies here, and I think that's the line they maintained, but I think it went much wider than that. So again, I like that. I think underneath it, what it wasn't Ballymena people saying, and may have initially been saying, we don't want Roman gypsies here, but I think very quickly that they were saying, actually, we want this territory, this neighbourhood, to be ours the way it was for Ballymena people. So to quote the man, they wanted Britain to be back British, and they have every right to do so. And I admire the determined and very relatively a very gentle way, but efficient, effective, focused way that they did it. And I think they got it 90 or 95% right. I think them. I can see some that they went over the top in one or two areas, but I mean they were not prepared. They didn't schedule the rape or alleged rape of a 12 or 13-year-old girl by a couple of 14-year-old Roman gypsy boys. They didn't schedule that. They had to act quickly, and this hasn't happened before, so they didn't have a guide. No one was giving them a handbook on how to do it. So I think to say that they got it, they might have got it 5 or even as much as 10%, I don't think 10%, wrong or over the top, that is not an insult. I think they dealt with this very, very well indeed, admirably, and there's a lot we can learn from them, and I salute them. I salute the people of Ballymena and the people who led them. Okay, now let me just go here. I want to give you a news story so I can talk about the timeline. Bear with me a moment. Okay, here we are. This is this report from the BBC. I always like to quote the enemy because then I can't be accused of being in my own little bubble. All right, so Saturday night saw some sporadic disturbances. This wasn't yesterday, this was 8 days ago. Okay, now, just to give you an idea. Monday, peaceful protest was held in Ballymena, County Antrim, after 2 teenage boys appeared before Collateral Magistrates Court accused of sexually assaulting a teenage girl. I thought she was 12, but if she was 13, it's a typical BBC, call her a teenage girl. The idea maybe she was 19. No. This was a nasty attack on a child. Sexual assault. I have the impression it might have been rape that was alleged. I don't know about that. But this looks like the BBC trying to calm it down a bit, as they would. So they spoke to an interpreter in Romanian to confirm their names and addresses. Bloody. Then later in the day, violence broke out when a number of people wearing masks broke into the peaceful protest, built barricades, etc. People threw petrol bombs, etc. Okay, Tuesday. Protesters attacked police during another night of disorder in Ballymena. Cars were set on fire, and I think that was targeted. This is the BBC are making out this is random thuggery. That's what's being said. It's the opposite. I think it's organised, it's focused, it's thought through, and it's not thuggery. It's economical with economy of effort, economy of force. Cars were set on fire and the windows of several houses were smashed. Now that, in the history of population transfer, that is nothing. Smashed windows and burned cars it doesn't even register. So now what you see also is that it's spread, not just Ballymena at all. So sporadic incidents of disorder in Newton Abbey, in Carrickfergus, in County Antrim and in North Belfast. Then on Wednesday, the worst of the disorder was again in Ballymena, but unrest also spread to other towns. In Larne, County Antrim, etc. I'll go through the other towns. There's quite a lot of them, basically across most of Northern Ireland, certainly all of Protestant Northern Ireland. Then on Thursday, the fourth night of disorder, but at a lower level than had been seen earlier in the week. 400 protesters gathered in the centre of Portadown, County Armagh. That's a separate town, quite some way away. That's not a bad turnout. Bricks and masonry were thrown at police. That's from the video I've seen. It's throwing bottles, throwing lumps of concrete at the police. I think the BBC or Sky mentioned petrol bombs. I haven't seen any video of that. I'd have thought there would be video of that, but that doesn't seem to be very widespread. And what it looks like is local young men being directed to keep the police at bay, whilst the population can then go about getting people they don't want in their area removed. All right, so on Friday, police in Portadown used water cannons to tackle rioters, but the violence was again lower than earlier in the week. And the police released photographs. They want to get people. They want to make an example, just like they did after Southport. It's the same old playbook. They've got nothing else. I'll go through that in a minute. And some sporadic disturbances on Saturday in different locations. Okay, that's the timeline. What this resulted in, I think, was quite a substantial amount of population transfer, removal, getting families to leave the area. So families in emergency accommodation after days of unrest. That was on 13th of June. I think the 13th of June was, I think it would have been the Friday, I think. So towards the end. About 50 households in Northern Ireland have received assistance since disorder broke out in Ballymena. The Northern Ireland Housing Executive, so that's the housing authority, the people who provide government housing, basically saying assistance means they've been rehoused. Some 14 families have also been provided with emergency accommodation during the disorder. That suggests it's 60 or 50 households. Quite a lot of these households have more than one family in them, and 14 families. So that's I think that's pretty good. That's a good few nights' work, I reckon. It's I think that they've accomplished effective results. Now, just to show you this next one, initially it was about Roman gypsies. These are not Romanians, these are gypsies. Ethnically, they come from India. And this interview, there's no point playing it. All you see throughout it is the back of her head. And it's a softball interview with Sky News saying, "Oh, it must be terrible for you, poor you." And she tries to say, I mean, she talks as if butter wouldn't melt in her mouth, and says how she's contributed by participating in education, whatever that means. Well, yeah, well, I wish you hadn't. That was probably cost us money. So, and the other one is she has made lots of contributions to the community. Well, I wonder what those contributions have been. I don't know. That's how it started. And this is a point that I find interesting, which is that about this disorder in general. The initial spark was about Roma gypsies, as you can well imagine. Where I live, out in the sticks, in the back of nowhere, the people that you and I think of as gypsies, the people who come around to your mum's house and try and menace her into agreeing to brief them to do her driveway. Yeah, and then when she says, "No, thank you, I'm going to go back inside now," they then come back that evening or the evening after and smash their way into her shed. Those guys, they fear, they are not nice people, and they fear Roma gypsies. So that's the kind of people. And so I think it's no wonder that trouble started in Ballymena. And it was initially, what was claimed, I think as part of a PR move by the people doing the disorder, was that it was about culture and Roma gypsies. But it quickly spread to a lot of other ethnicities. And what it looks like is Ballymena basically saying, we want Ballymena to be Ballymena. It was nice when it was our community. We like our community. We liked it when it was us together. That's what we want again. And other people are just not compatible with that. They're just not us. They're not Ballymena people. We want them to go. And we just don't want you dumping any of them on us. Now, one of the ways that I think that these people, I praise the people of Ballymena. I am grateful to them for what they've done. I think they've done a good thing. I think we can learn a lot of really valuable, good lessons in how to do it. In the way that Israel teaches us valuable lessons in how not to do it, I think the people of Ballymena have taught us how we should do it, how we can do it. And but I think even so, they went over the top in some respects. One was setting fire to this the Larne Leisure Centre. So if I show you this, I mean, this is the BBC trying to again. The BBC are part of the enemy. They want to say these Ballymena people are all bad, racist thugs, bigots, and what you have that is like a few young men setting off a fire inside that leisure centre because people, I assume mostly Roma gypsies, got moved out of Ballymena and they get accommodated temporarily overnight inside a leisure centre. There's a housing shortage, in case you don't know, so they're put up in a leisure centre. And I think probably following quite good strategy, they decide, right, when the enemy are retreating, we then harass them and we then keep them. Once they're running, keep them running. I think that was probably the idea. But I don't think it was necessary to say, if you believe the press reports, you would think that they burned down the whole of that leisure centre with the people in it. They set a fire inside the sort of entranceway, the main atrium. And the photographs afterwards, I mean, they look, that place, it's going to need a refurb, but it's not destroyed. The lady who runs the cafe, and now I read a report, she'd started the cafe going again 2 days later. So, but again, I think that was over the top. That was unnecessary because those people were already moving out, so it wasn't necessary to do that. I just want to make that point. Now, what you also had, if I go down, let me go down. Right, what you have here is people showing Filipino flags saying Filipino lives here. So we have seen a number of calls over social media for protest activity this evening at various places within Northern Ireland, said the ACC Assistant Chief Constable. And some homes have begun displaying stickers outlining the residents' nationalities. Signs which read British household and Filipino lives here could be seen on some doors. And again, I think this is part of the coordination. If you get everyone to put a sticker in their doorway, then it shows up who doesn't belong there. And so I think that's about coordination. Business, I don't think that's because Ballymena people fear that they were going to get retaliated against. And so they say a Filipino lives here. What they're trying to say is we're not Roma Gypsy. We're peaceable. You don't have to attack us. I don't think that worked for them. And just if I look at this bit that I've highlighted here, mother of two, Mika Kolev, that's her there. I reckon that's a Roma Gypsy, who said she was now fleeing her home with her family and is considering moving back to Bulgaria after her house was damaged. BBC doesn't say. I think the damage, see that panel, that door panel? Now, in terms of population removal, broken, you can repair that. I could repair that door myself. I could do it. I wouldn't even have to look up on YouTube how to repair it. I could do it. So that is really, that doesn't score very high on the Richter scale in my book. So she's considering moving back to Bulgaria after her house was damaged in Tuesday's disorder. So very soon after, they get her to make, I think breaks out on Monday. After Tuesday, she says, right, I'm going to go. We know what's going to happen, so it's not possible to wait and see what's going to happen. I have to save my children. I have to save them. Okay, so she is saying she's going back to Bulgaria. Now, how did those Filipino lives here flags work? Well, not very well. And I managed to find a few examples of this to show. I think maybe quite a few Filipino families went. I feel a bit sorry for them. The Filipinos I've met, I've always found to be very nice, but they are not us. If you're Filipino, you have a homeland. It's called the Philippines. If the Philippines wouldn't allow me to live there, I would understand. And the people of Ballymena have every right to say, this is not the Philippines. This is not Manila. This is our homeland, and we want to keep it that way. We want to keep hold of it because it's the only one we've got. We can't go anywhere. So Filipino families flee Northern Irish home after a night of anti-immigrant violence. So I'm not saying anything bad happened to these people. This is two couples and a daughter living in the same house. So the fellow's name, they quote, is Michael Sancio and his wife and daughter, and then another couple that they don't seem to name. So that's one couple. If I go to the next one, this gentleman, my children are frightened to go outside, Filipino mechanics, home targeted. I don't think it was his home, it was his car. So, hold on. It said him and his home were attacked. He talks about, it's paywalled, this article, but he talks about his car being burnt out, which you can see there, and him saying how frightening that is. So it doesn't say whether he's going home or not, or whether he's moving on. But I suspect he probably is. And then the next one there is Filipina dad in Ballymena left traumatized after watching violent mob burn car and riot. Again, car burning, we have to put up with car burning all the time. If you go to France, I think it's 10,000 is their record for New Year's Eve for invaders burning cars. We have to put up with that all the time. That does not, that's drowned out. This guy's car getting burned is drowned out by all the other car burnings done by invaders in this country. So, I have sympathy, but it's not, I'm not going to lose sleep over that because I think it just doesn't, apart from the fact that it might be insured, I think it's a small price to pay for people to get their homeland back. And a Filipino national called Michael Asuro, who's been living in Ballymena for 2 years, has said he is traumatized after his car was burnt out during riots on Tuesday night. And he talks about 2 nights of violence. So again, after Tuesday night, so it didn't take long. So this was quite an efficient and effective use of force. And what he says is, asked if he intended to stay, he said, "We're moving on today, and I think we have our kids here." So that's what people are. So I think a lot of people are saying when they've got children, you don't need to use too much force to get us to move away from you. Okay. But and it's not only Filipinos as well. There are other groups who are feeling like they might want to go too. Now I want to play you a little bit of this video. I hope you can see it there. It's quite small. Let me just switch mics so I can play it.
Night 2, and it was just as ugly. An angry mob on a rampage as violence spread in this corner of Northern Ireland. Riot police fought back as the ambush escalated. This has been rumbling on all week after a vigil for a girl who was the victim of an alleged sex attack was, according to police, hijacked by masked racist anti-immigration thugs. At least 2 of the 3 accused are Romanian.
I have 2 kids and they're in the house now, they're sleeping. A lot of people have their kids sleeping. It's not good for them to see this.
Now, my point in showing that is to show basically what most of the disorder was about. As you saw at the beginning there, it's blurred out on the Sky report. It's a lot of bottles and lumps of concrete getting thrown at the police. I don't like seeing your ordinary copper getting bricked. What I have the impression, though, that this was about keeping the police occupied, keeping them at bay, whilst the rest of Ballymena accomplished its objective of getting people who weren't welcome, they didn't want in Ballymena, who weren't Ballymenans, getting them to move. Also, you saw that the African guy saying, "Oh, I don't like this. We've got children. I'm not happy to be around here." I think he's affected as well. I think that's naturally what will happen. The reason I'm encouraged by that is because I think when our system breaks down, I think that it will be. You can see how crude and sharp that ethnic separation will be. So really all groups who are not white British will feel unwelcome. Even if the disorder is directed at another group, they'll say, "I feel uncomfortable about this because I could be next in the crosshairs." And I think they will just go preemptively. So I think it'll be, I find that very encouraging because it means that population transfer, that separation can be accomplished without civil war, without very much bloodshed at all. I think that African guy, there's no suggestion that anyone's tried to smash his windows or kick his door in. And he seems to be hinting that he might leave as well, that he's unhappy there. So I like this. This is humane. It is economical of force. In addition to that, the ethnicities went even wider still. Now this one from The Guardian, in 14 years I've never seen anything like this. Ballymena's foreigners describe fear after writing, etc., etc. There's this quote here: "The crowd was banging on the door and we were all upstairs," said David, a 28-year-old Polish man who withheld his surname. 2 Polish and 2 Bulgarian families, around 12 people in all, had clustered together for safety and wedged a sofa against the front door when the mob smashed the windows and set fire to the living room. He said, "I smelled the smoke. We came down and ran out the back door to the police station." So I wonder if was the Polish guy gypsy as well? I suspect the Bulgarians might have been gypsy, but it's if not, it has spread to Polish people as well. It looks like Ballymena people saying we don't want Poles here. Now that may be what they're saying. Now I should point out that again, whilst I think people of Ballymena got it 95% right, I think this is something else we can learn. Setting fire to houses when there's someone in there, that's very dangerous. I think that's going over the top. You can really easily kill someone. I mean, that's why there's a criminal charge of arson with intent to endanger life, which just could include you being reckless as to whether life was endangered. And it's I think they got it wrong there. So, I mean, he's saying he smelled the smoke and they came down and ran out of the back door. So that's someone threw something into their front room, I think, and it set some fire. I think that's going over the top. That's a little lesson that we can learn. Similarly, in the same Guardian news story, there's about this couple. The fellow's called, no, not these people. So, someone called D, a bottling plant worker, said D regretted that his immediate neighbours, a Slovak family, were they Slovak gypsies? I don't know, it's difficult to tell, had their windows smashed. It said he regretted it. The previous occupants were a nightmare, but the Slovaks were brilliant and should not have been targeted. They got hit in the heat of the moment. It was a mistake. Those responsible had apologised and told the family it could stay, said D. So that shows a lack of coordination, a lack of focus, a lack of discrimination and targeting. Again, what that shows you is you sort of need tighter discipline and quite tight focus, and for that you need a coordination, sort of unity of command. But I think my point is made that the Ballymena people were not simply trying to get Roma gypsies to move on. They claimed later it was only about that. I think that's a PR move, because everyone knows how highly criminalised and parasitic Roma gypsies tend to be. Everyone has that impression anyway. Okay, let me go on to the next story, which is this one. Now, this is about the injuries to police. This is something I don't like. I don't know how it can be avoided. It talks about petrol bombs thrown at police. I think it was mainly fireworks. I haven't seen any video. I've trawled around. I haven't seen any video of petrol bombs getting thrown at police. But what I think is sad is that at least 63 police officers have been injured over the last 5 days. And First Minister Michelle O'Neill has hit out at the troublemakers. Now, I don't know what that means. I think sometimes quite small things can count as an injury for a serving police officer getting time off work. Not because of skiving, but it's the way it's registered. So what is that? But I still don't like 63 people getting injured. If there was a way to keep the police at bay without injuring them, I'd like to know what it is. All right. But again, the police, they're not doing themselves any favours, because they have joined in lockstep unison with the politicians and the journalists, saying that people of Ballymena are bigots and racist. So the head of Northern Ireland's police force, no less, Chief Constable John Butcher, has warned his officers that his officers will pursue the bigots and racists responsible. As we will see, I don't think that kind of language is working. I don't think people are listening to it any longer. What I think has happened is a year previous, you had another, I think, a rape on a teenage girl by Roma gypsies in Ballymena, and I think there was a small demo, and nothing happened. And my guess is that the authorities kept pumping in Roma gypsies. They come through Europe into Ireland, and they come across the open border into Northern Ireland to be under British rule, to get British benefits, and they get dumped in the dumping grounds are places like Ballymena. And I think the people of Ballymena knew that the authorities are not going to take any notice of a peaceful demo. The governments, they will laugh at a peaceful demo. They'll probably sit in the office and say, God, if only those people at Ballymena knew what we thought of their demo, how little we think of them and their demo. The thing is, the people at Ballymena do know how little the authorities think of them and their demo. And so I think they said to themselves, the only way to accomplish this is through force. And we don't want them simply to slow up the rate of increase of the number of Roma gypsies in our area. We want them to get all of them out. That's what we need. And so the only way to do it is through disorder. And so I think they'd worked it out quite well. And I think they coordinated quite well. And that is what happened in this next story here. This is another BBC story, water cannon used, blah-de-blah-de. But if I go down here, the assistant chief constable, so the fellow under that Butcher fellow, said that they'd seen some coordination in Thursday's disorder We did absolutely see in Portadown last night people who were directing young people and directing others back and forwards to try and get around police lines, find weak points, throw weaponry. So coordination, almost sort of low-level military strategy. So we certainly saw more coordination in the activity last night than we had seen in previous days. As to who was doing that coordinating, I'm not in a position to say. So it's not easy to coordinate at such short notice. The police get training year in, year out. They're ready for it. These people, the people of Ballymena, they didn't choose the timetable. It was chosen for them by the Roma Gypsies. So they had to respond fast and they had to organise fast. And then if you go further down, what you'll see here, this I think, this is ugly, but I think it's a sign of being humane about it. This Alliance MLA Connie Egan said graffiti that was sprayed on a house in Bangor is racist and intimidating. And if you can see there, it says 24 hours with the crosshairs on a window. That's saying leave here in 24 hours. And it's giving people the opportunity to go peacefully. It is accomplishing its aim. I think Connie Egan, she's a local politician, I think. Yeah, I don't know what an MLA is, a member of the local authority, perhaps. And I think she thinks that all those populations and more should come into Ballymena. It's fine. Local people like it. Suck up the diversity. Celebrate it. And once you accept Ballymena's people or local people's aim of having their community for themselves, having Britain back British, as the man said, then I think you will see that this is actually a humane way to do it. It's giving a warning, quite a stern warning, but it's one that seems to have worked without bloodshed, without dirtying our hands. And again, you can see an example of coordination amongst local people. This story, Ballymore riots, families flee locals. You get a lot of euphemisms and code used by the BBC and Sky News. So they don't call white British or Ballymenas, ethnic Ballymenas or ethnic Northern Irish people. They try and skirt around the issue of ethnicity. And people who were born in Ballymena, that's another one they use. I think they don't want to face up. They're in denial about the issue because there's nothing they can do, and it does cut away at their power. They're on a losing wicket, and there's nothing they can do. So a short drive around Ballymena's one-way road system takes you on a journey through housing estates where people have flooded the streets with Union Jack flags and stuck yellow A4 sheets to their windows with the words "locals live here." I think that's coordination. I think that's local. It's not simply local people saying, please don't attack me. It's a way of narrowing down who are the people that they want moved on. So I think this is quite very grassroots and quite far-reaching amongst local people. Okay, these colourful displays are seen as a public notice board of the nationality of occupants inside each home. Yeah, don't say. A deterrent to make the angry mob to look elsewhere. No, that's Sky News trying to say that this mob has bloodlust and will attack anyone. And it's I think this is local people playing their part, participating. And those failing to advertise, and this is why, those failing to advertise whether they are native or not seem to be paying the price. So there you see Union Jack and locals live here. And I witnessed an upper floor flat with a window smashed, the guttering on fire, and the ground outside ablaze. An older neighbour fled her home downstairs in her dressing gown. So earlier in the day, 2 Romanian women were frantically examining their phones, etc. The point I want to make is that that's a flat, it's got a window smashed, and the guttering is on fire, and there's, I'm guessing, petrol on the pavement burning out. Now, again, that's not genocide. A gutter on fire, I could replace a gutter, okay, and I don't think that's going to endanger life. And a window smashed, well, yeah, I could replace a window panel. I couldn't replace an entire window. I do have sympathy. That is not very nice, but I think it represents very efficient, and I would say, in the circumstances, very humane minimisation of the use of force. So I respect the people of Ballymena, and I admire the fact that ordinary people are so intelligent and disciplined and unified. And so I want to repeat the characteristics I think they've displayed are economical use of force, efficiency, so it's well focused, it's coordinated, united, determined, and they're not going to be put down, and it's bloodless. The final quality is I think they know how to use the PR lingo. So what I'd like to do is to play you a couple of clips from, there's this one here. This is, I think this is a Sky News reporter. Yep, Sky News going around Ballymena. And then another one from this fella here. It's Craig Houston. His channel is Craig Houston Talks. I know nothing about him until I saw this, but he's a Scot. He sounds like he's Glaswegian. Went over to Ballymena and interviewed local people. I'd like to play a couple of clips of what they're saying, because what they're saying, you might think it's disgusting and it's politically correct, but I think what they're doing is they are using acceptable PR, an acceptable PR veneer. I think this is part of their intelligent approach. They realise they can't just front up to camera and be as blunt as I'm being. They have to cloak it within respectability, and they are good at doing that. Okay, so let me play this other clip first. Bear with me.
Bad here, you know, against foreigners, or they're working in the hospitals, they're the doctors, they're the nurses, you know, we need them to enrich our society, and they're working and they're, you know, they're lawful, and that's grand. There's a small minority of them that are coming in and they just think they can do whatever they want with our children.
It's the illegal immigrants that are coming in with no documentation, that are mainly men, that are hanging about our parks.
If I something on, I watched a live that Freedom Dad done at a peaceful protest,
yes.
And after it, the man that started talking he was either black guy or mixed race. I'm
yes.
not quite sure.
Yes.
But I wasn't sure who he was, but you told me today that was one of the victims' fathers.
That's the latest victim's father.
Oh. So it's not a race thing. It's a culture thing.
It's a culture. It's not racist.
Yeah, and that's heartbreaking when you see that man in it. And I didn't know that when I watched the video last night. But when he's taken to the streets, and very peaceful, very dignified. He spoke very briefly. This isn't about Catholic, Protestant, white, black, yellow, brown, Muslim, Pakistani, Protestant, Catholic. It's about communities.
Yes.
And the fears that have been in this community, but it's to the value of the community.
There's loads of others in this town.
Mm-hmm.
The only people who bring nothing to this town, and I will put this to Alliance politician Sean Mulholland, who said that immigrants brought so much to Ballymena. Okay, immigrants bring a lot to Ballymena. Show me what the Roma brought to Ballymena.
Now you might think though that kind of language is kind of disgusting, going on about saying we're not racist and there are loads of immigrants here and they enrich our society and it's only the illegals, it's only a small minority, it's only the Roma. This is, I'm prepared to cut them quite a lot of rope for that those people at Ballymena. I think that is, the facts speak differently. I think what they're saying is we want Ballymena back for us, the Ballymenans. But they realise they're having to cloak it in acceptable PR, and I think that they're quite. They seem like very nice but very intelligent people. I find them very easy to respect, and I although you might not like the language they're using there, I actually put it on the credit side to them because it shows intelligence of presentation. They're doing the business, but there's no reason to give people ammunition to go at you by talking crudely to camera the way I do. One of the nicest things about it is how united it is, unified. I suspect all of those signs in people's windows, Union Jacks and the A4 bits of paper saying locals live here, I think that is a sign of unity, that everyone's on side. And there is evidence that it bridges the Catholic-Protestant divide, that they are uniting, as happened in Belfast a year ago. So let me show you this story here from, this is the Grawny ad again. Hold on, Thursday briefing, what sparked days of racially charged violence in Northern Ireland. Let me scroll down, okay. Good, lovely old Guardian. Rubbish. Oh Christ, come on. Bear with me. Okay, I missed it. Who is driving the backlash? The anger isn't just bubbling among one community, In this case, this is bringing Catholics, Protestants together in combined rioting against the foreigners, Rory adds. I don't know who Rory is. Probably maybe some Guardian researcher, I don't know. He had the people who are Protestant loyalists out at the riots last night tell him that they saw lots of Catholics from the other part of town who were there with them. And this bit here, they welcomed them. They say it's brilliant that now they have Catholics and Protestants united in a common front against Johnny Foreigner. And that fits with last August at Belfast City Hall at an anti-immigration march. We had loyalists with British flags marching outside Dublin, anti-migrant activists who had the Irish tricolour. They were marching side by side. You don't often see that in Northern Ireland. So, well, that's a good news story. I'm sure that the Labour Party, who claim all credit for the Good Friday Agreement, well, they should be very happy about that. They should be celebrating this unity and the burial of the hatchet. And you can see that unity in this map here. I just mapped out the towns where it's appeared. Collateral, Ballymena, Portadown, Tullyally, Bangor, Larne, Newry, Newton Abbey, Belfast, Carrickfergus from the reports I've read. So if you map all those towns together, you see so if that white line, that's the border of Northern Ireland, that is, I would say, about 2/3, maybe at least half. I would say 2/3 of Northern Ireland and all of Protestant Ireland. Also, Newry is in a mainly Catholic area. So I think it does bridge the divide. I think the Protestants are ahead of the Catholics on this, but I think the Catholics are, there is unity there. So again, well done to Ballymena. What are the authorities doing? Well, the same old playbook. They're going to get people, chuck them in jail for a long time, just like they did in Southport, and calling everyone bigots and racists, blah-de-blah. I don't think they've used the word far right, but bigots and racist thugs, that's the wording. And of course, they have an anti-racism demo. You see that this anti-racism demo that's held there. There's the picture of it. I've enlarged the picture a little bit there. So that's a pretty pathetic looking demo. I mean, you see, I think that's the Guardian showing the full extent of it. And if I zoom in a bit, what you can see, there are not many people there, not many people between the camera and the railings there. So it's quite a thin turnout. If you notice, those are recycled banners, refugees welcome. So they haven't made banners especially for it. Another one, people before profit. What has that got? I mean, just like any old left-wing banner just gets dragged in, and there's something there about workers. I don't know. I mean, it's just drivel. That's their response. And what you have is basically insults. Let me find the precise quote. What you see here is at that demo, the Belfast Deputy Lord Mayor, he came out and he said the demonstration was about that pitiful anti-racist demo was about standing up to racist thugs, quote, who have been on our streets intimidating and threatening families and driving them from their homes. That was kind of the point, really, to get them to move out of the neighbourhood. So, you know, they just can't. They can't recognise a problem. They can't handle it. They've got nothing. So we're working with people right across the city. Now, what he's saying is that Doherty said the police and Northern Ireland executive need to step up. I think what that means is crack heads. That's what he means. And a better response was needed. So a more aggressive response. That's what they're calling for. What else are they going to do? What else can they call for? They're out of options, and you can see this in it's not really having a very good effect. This is a story I showed you earlier. Locals live here with the Union Jack. Well, a sizable chunk of people born in Ballymena. That means Ballymenans. Okay, I wish they'd stop skirting around the underlying facts, even if they want to take a different side, or just failing to define things. A sizable chunk of people born in Ballymena are angry. They do not like the talk from police and politicians that taking to the streets following an alleged sex attack on a teenage girl equates to them being racist thugs. I think that the Southport playbook, it's running out of time. It's running out of steam. It's going to be less and less effective because people don't respect it anymore. People know what it means and people are not intimidated. People don't feel put down when they're beaten with a racist stick. It just makes them angry. And they, like me, that they think, can't you think of anything better to say than that? And it's because they can't think it through, or they won't think it through. It's the same tired old analysis. So this is Sky News. Why did Ballymena become the latest site of anti-immigration riots? Well, it sort of goes through it. But what it says is there was a peaceful demo. It got hijacked by bigots and racist thugs, and social media was involved. The usual playbook. But they haven't got control of social media anymore. They can't stamp down on it anymore. And social media companies are just not paying attention to them anymore. I think you can see that in the failure of a lot of companies to participate in Pride Month or whatever it was. Those companies, they less and less feel the need to suck up to the government as opposed to their customers. So 2 14-year-old boys were arrested and charged after the incident, and police said the pair used a Romanian interpreter, blah-de-blah-de. After that, calls for a peaceful protest from the victim's father. I think he's probably the black guy they were talking about earlier in that clip I played. Amplified online. So peaceful protests by the victim's father, good. Those protests took on an anti-immigration angle and erupted into riots and clashes. So that's bad. Bad. Anti-immigration angle, bad. Riots and clashes with the police, bad. Analysis of social media messages has shown there were already rising tensions in the town before the incident, following a decade of rapid demographic change. So people being bad, being racist and thugs, getting stirred up by social media. So we need to crack heads and we need to clamp down on social media. They can't do that anymore. They're out of options. I think what we saw in Ballymena, although I think it was quite impressive, or had the qualities that I've laid out, and I'm impressed with those qualities from ordinary people at short notice in their neighbourhoods. But I think this is actually just the beginning. I think the sort of the remigrating potential, the mindset will grow with feeding. There'll be feedback loops, and I think this is just the beginning. So I think, first of all, that racial preference will, for the racial preference for their own kind, I think that will grow with feeding. So once and we saw that, Roma Gypsies, they decide they're going to move. What about the Filipinos? They decide they're going to move. Then what about, say, African people? It looks like they were uncomfortable deciding to move. And then Polish people or Slovakians. I think what underlies this, I think it is a necessary and inevitable part of human life. And there is a lot of hypocrisy about it, like there was with the pre-Victorians about sex. But the inevitable and necessary thing is that people want a sense of homeland, and they want a sense of home, and that means being around people who look, speak, act, and think the same as them. That's a key part of home. Ethnicity and home go together. So I think that sort of racial preference for their own kind will grow with feeding. Secondly, I think that that will then create a sense of national pride. If you get the sense of homeland combined with ethnicity, that creates a sense of pride, a sense of, yes, we are together. We might be poor or we might not be perfect, but we are together. We are taking this together. We are because we trust each other, and we share. We are familiar with each other, and I think out of that comes a sense of, we like this. We're proud of what we have. You might not like it. You might not feel it's anything to be proud of, but we do. And so I think that will come, and I think that will come with us as well. If we get our homeland back, and we get our land back, and if coupled with English ethnicity, I think you will then start to see a general increasing. That will platform ideas of national identity and collectivism. So I think what Ballymena have shown us, but at the start, is still a very substantial illustration of how we can accomplish what we need to accomplish with very little bloodshed. It looks disorganized, it looks chaotic, but in fact it's a lot more gentle and humane than the government, than soldiers with rifles going door to door, or policemen with clubs could do it. If soldiers with rifles go door to door trying to turf people out there and then people are going to get shot, and no one was injured. Well, police were injured, but the people who were made to leave, they didn't even get injured, from what I can tell, and they're scared, but not injured or hurt or physically hurt. But what I think it comes down to, I suspect what it comes down to, is that Ballymena, because it's had decades and decades of grassroots political and ethnic protest, I think it has perhaps a more ingrained habit of understanding that they need to stick together at flashpoints like this, and also probably quite practiced leadership, people coordinating, people who are trusted because they have the welfare of Portadown people in mind. And that comes down to leadership. Though I think there was good leadership. I think it could have been a little bit tighter. So with that Larne Community Centre getting burned down, with some people's houses getting, or fires getting set in people's houses whilst they're actually in the house, and also some people getting kicked out or attempted to be kicked out that weren't intended to be kicked out. I think that suggests that a tighter command and tighter discipline might be a good thing. And particularly, what I want to warn against in talking about the leadership and the necessity for good community neighbourhood leadership in those situations, I think that's important because, crucially, it needs to be people who are honest and truthful, and who are not criminalised and who are not out for their own financial gain. And you have to, if you decide that you're going to let a known criminal lead you, then I think there are going to be a lot of problems because, and I think in particular, I hope people will not, in situations like this, turn to characters like Tommy Robinson. He is a criminal. I don't care if you want to send money to him. I don't care if you agree with him about Israel. But the problem I have with him is his criminality. And then also subsidiary to that is his love of money and his tendency to fib. And that kind of leader, if you get them leading something like this, you don't know what alley, what avenue they're going to take you down, because they have their own aims, their own objectives. And it can be dangerous if you politically promote a known criminal. It tends to go off the charts if you do. It can do sometimes. So you need to adopt clean, honest leaders who are kind of transparent and tell the truth. I think that may well be why Ballymena was able to do what they did so successfully. And I think it has been successful because they were just getting stuffed like a sausage skin with any foreigner coming over the border. The authorities just wanted to dump on them. And I think they thought, well, even if we're really, really lucky, we'll get a slight reduction in the rate of increase. We don't want that. We want them all to go. And I think they've accomplished that. Now, I suspect what the government would like to do is to say, right, we're going to stuff you even harder with foreigners, especially Roma Gypsies, just to teach you a lesson. I don't think they can do that. I don't think they're going to do that. So I think it has worked in Ballymena. I suspect other areas, which will now find they have higher rates of Roma Gypsies and other nationalities, I think they might say, hold on, we don't like it. We don't like it any more than Ballymena did. We might take a leaf out of Ballymena's book. So it's so it has been successful in Ballymena, and I commend them for it. Another lesson I think we can learn is it's quite easy taking streets where there's a minority of foreigners in there, particularly if they have children. Almost, you just, by the looks of it, you just have to give them a warning, maybe break a window, and they're going to go. And what I think this says is you actually don't have to fight very much. You don't need civil war. Don't create civil war. When the time comes and the state falls over and it's chaos on the streets, my advice to people is don't create civil war by fighting for every last street you can get. If there's a street and it's majority foreigner and they're going to fight over it, it's easier to take it back by letting them take it and then letting them stew in their own juice. So they start to starve, they find they can't support themselves, they have no basic amenities, and they end up not able to get rid of their sewage, not able to get fresh water, and cholera and typhus start breaking out, and they're cold and hungry with nothing to burn, nothing to warm themselves with. It will be easier to get them to stew in their own juice and want to leave than it will be to fight them for every last street. I don't think so. Resist the urge to fight for every last street. When the time comes, I think it will be intelligent and not weak to use a minimum of force and not to fight for the sake of it. And in that, I think you should take a leaf out of the wonderful people, of the very, I think, impressive, decent people of Ballymena who have been wrongly slandered and whom I'm very grateful to, because they have at least gone some way to putting my mind at rest that we can achieve remigration in a bloodless way that does not dirty our hands and does not dirty the legacy for future generations. Thank you.